All right, we are recording. Welcome to session 2 of Commission to Comfort. If you are able to have your video on, even if you just got back from the gym or you don't think that you're really video ready or whatever, it really is lots better for me if I can see your beautiful faces. So if you're able to, please do. If not, then we'll give you a pass until next time. Okay, so if you were not in session 1, raise your hand or speak up or let us know. Was there anybody? Okay, Daniel, welcome. Becky, welcome. Anyone else besides those two? Okay, very good. So Daniel and Becky, were you guys able to watch the replay of the first session?
I was able to watch part of it. I did not finish it though.
Okay. All right. Well, what's interesting is that we checked earlier today. We had 18 views of that replay that we posted to the YouTube channel, and there's 18 of us on here. And I know one of those views was me. I watched it like I committed to do. And I mean, I have to say, like, I inspired myself in the replay. So, and I'm only partly kidding. I was like, I did not feel mentally there that day, but when I watched it back, I was like, wow, I think I said that the way I wanted to. So I was very happy to see that that worked out the way that it did. Let's talk first about the homework. So there were 4 homework assignments to do, and please be honest with us all about this. So the first one was to rewatch, watch the replay of it. How many people actually watched the replay that were in the first session and watched the replay? Okay. The second one was to ask yourself and determine for yourself how much residual income would be what we call life-changing for you. I shared with you last time that I had defined that for myself as just paying my mortgage, which it has done every month since my revenue share started, which was my 3rd month in the company. And ever since then, my housing expenses, my housing expenses have been covered by my revenue share and will be for many years into the future. So I'm pretty happy about that coming true. Is there anybody who would be willing to share with the group, all of us, what is it for you? How do you define it for yourself? Tyler, I see your hand up. Will you unmute and share with us?
Yes, I would love to. So, I mean, I've thought about this for a while, but I actually came up with a price tag. So you wanted the reason and the price pretty much, or how much money per month or whatever?
Yeah, just you gotta, the intent of this is we all say, well, I'd love to have as much residual income as I could get, right? Mm-hmm. But if you don't put something specific and intentional out there, as Tamara has taught us, it's less likely to occur. So we want to increase the probabilities to make it to occur. So we got to put it out there. We got to put it in front of us so that we can achieve it. So what is that for you, Tyler?
The price would be $20,833.33 a month.
Okay, nice. So that would change your life if that happened.
100%. My wife would be, she could retire. She could join me and work for me, or work with me, not for me, because she's my wife. So
yeah, she would let you think that she works for you, but we all know what's really going on. Okay,
exactly. So yeah, that would totally be life changing, because she wants to leave law enforcement and I want to get her out. So that's my 5-year plan or less.
Okay. Thank you. So last time we talked about how to build residual income like that. That's a multifaceted approach. It's probably not going to just be one way. The highest wealth accumulators in the world usually do not have just one way of achieving those goals. So revenue share, which comes through recruiting, is a part of that, which we will be talking about today. But it won't be the only thing that will help get you there. All right. Anybody else feel a pressing need to tell us what it is for you. Okay, I should have not said pressing need. That was like way too strong. Katie, go ahead.
I don't have a pressing need, but I will share anyway. How's my audio? Is it all messed up still?
It's good for now.
Okay. So I have done some number crunching over the last few years, and we know kind of what our sort of nut is, what we need to make our expenses every month as we enter into retirement and semi-retirement. And so for me, the residual would be an extra $5,000 a month because most of that nut is covered. But if I could pay both mortgages, we have a house and a condo, and have an extra $2,500 for traveling, that would be, I would be very happy with that.
I like that. I should have probably included some travel budget in mine. I was just went for my mortgage only, but when I had the chance, I should have shot higher, right?
You can
No,
revise.
I've changed it since, and it's been doing quite well. So, okay. So the next one was, what does retirement look like for you? So we won't really have people share this unless somebody has something like really unique that you think would be a totally different way of looking at this, and then I'd be curious to hear it. But you know, retirement isn't just a dollar amount. It's a state of being. And what is that state of being for you? For me, the way I define it is that I don't want to be forced to work anymore. I can retire. When I'm retired, it means that I could work if I want to or not work if I don't want to. That to me is the definition. But if you failed to do this homework assignment, please don't fail to do it forever, because these things are like foundational things you got to have straight in your mind for the rest of what we're going to build on today to really stick. What we know about human learning is that human beings' brains work they learn by taking something that's new and sticking it into something that you already know. This is why analogies work really well for humans and really don't work very well for dogs, because dogs don't think this way, right? You can't give your dog an analogy and have it really make sense like it does a human. So you got to first have these things established so that everything else we talk about is packing around these ideals, because your ideals will drive you more than anything else will drive you in your life. Okay, the fourth one was to identify what's stopping you from taking action. Okay, and we're going to come back to this one because I am going to ask you to share. I appreciated a few people who shared last time. Ursula even used the words, I'm going to be vulnerable here, which I know is, it's hard to say the things that she said. And so I appreciated that she did that. And we're going to really challenge ourselves on this one. We're going to dig deep. We're going to find it. We're going to root it out. What I want to do is I want to rake the garden. The rocks that are in the brains now, we're raking that crap out of the garden, because it will stop us from doing what would otherwise be natural. And I don't want to use the word easy, but natural and very likely to succeed. All right. Okay, so let me share my screen. Give me 1 second while I figure this out. Uh-oh, hold on. Okay, share screen, that one. Someone give me a thumbs up that you're seeing that. Okay, very good. And let me make this bigger so I can see everybody over here. All right, very good. Okay. All right, so this is where I need some participation from you guys. When you think of recruiting, what thoughts come to your mind and what feelings rise up inside of you? Do you wake up and say, I just wish I didn't have all this other stuff to do because I wish I could just spend my day recruiting? Share with me, what comes to your minds? How do you feel about this?
Go ahead. I tend to I got
I was attempted to be recruited by a couple different people before I ever joined. And the feeling that I got when I was being recruited was similar to when I had been part of a few different multi-level marketing businesses,
Okay.
where I stuck with those for a couple of years. So I was really living that lifestyle. And now I look back at it and think there was a lot of things I did wrong. I didn't like what I was doing. And so it reminds me of that. That's the stigma that I have,
Okay.
is trying to convince somebody how they're going to get rich if they just do what I tell them to do. And I'm not rich.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? What do you guys think? What do you feel?
One thing I feel sometimes is, 'cause I've been trying to recruit and build my team, is like, do I bring enough value? That's always been like a little question and fear. I've been slowly overcoming it. But that was definitely a fear that I have, is, and am I able to financially support them, and am I able to bring enough value for them to be successful by themselves?
Okay. Yeah. So, Daniel, did you watch the part last time where we talked about what we observe in the business? Did you get that far in the video?
I did it.
Okay, so you'll love that part when you do watch session 1, is that we observe a humongous washout rate in this business. Those who do survive the first year or two, most of the time they don't really do well. A few people do make a good living of it, and a few people totally kill it, but even the ones who do great are constantly worried about where their next check is coming from, their next deal, their next commission, right? So, Daniel, you've survived the hardest time of being a real estate agent, and you've done, yeah, let's call it a pretty good job. I'm totally kidding. You have absolutely crushed it. So for you to feel like you don't bring the value, that's crazy. I'm glad you brought that one up, because I have that one on one of my slides here coming up. So, let me go through what I believe are some of the feelings that a lot of people feel. And I think you may have used this word, Steve, convince. These are the feelings people get. Persuade. I got to pitch them something or sell them something. And I'm even going to go all the way to like, it feels like I got to manipulate them. Right now, if we're being honest with ourselves, this is how most of us feel. And I tried to find some emojis. I'm not really a good emoji user, but I tried to find some emojis that would kind of represent each one of these. And these are the ones that I found. So especially the last one, nobody wants to feel like they're manipulating somebody, right? So all of these kind of represent a duty or an obligation. And if you're doing anything out of duty or obligation, it will never be as good as if you're doing it for different reasons. It'll always be harder. Now, tell me what do you feel when you see these words? Share, offer, assist, listening, discuss, invite. So I came up with the best emojis I could for what I feel when I think of those things. And then going along with that is what are the feelings that are conjured up in you with respect to your membership in this thing called the Synergy community? So I would say we could describe it as fun, community and camaraderie, support, collaboration, success, service and giving, warmth, and even love. Now, I don't think that that's just the deluded mind of a guy who loves Synergy telling himself that that's really the feelings of Synergy, and that's really what happens, and that's really what it offers to people. This is what people have told me they get from it. One time early in Synergy, we had a mandatory meeting, and I asked everybody to share with me why they had joined eXp Realty. And I thought for sure everyone was going to say it was because of RevShare and stock. And not one person said that. Everybody said that they were there because of the community, because of Synergy, because of the camaraderie, because of the feeling of community. All right, so these are the lies that we tell ourselves with respect to recruiting. These are specific lies. The agent is happy at her current brokerage. The agent knows more about the real estate business and brokerages than I do. So what can I add? Why would he listen to me? This was Daniel's. She's already been pitched EXP 1,000 times. Now, remember, I'm going to come back to Denise Klein and Lacey Cerrone. Does anybody know how Denise responded to Joe the first time the words EXP came out of his mouth? Joe and Denise were on a plane, and Denise asked Joe what he's been up to, and he told her what he's been up to, and she had a very negative, very strong response to that, right? So this is something that people tell themselves is a reason not to bring it up. This is another lie. I get one shot at recruiting him, so my pitch better be perfect. I better not screw this up. Now, this is one that happens to me. I'm an analyzer, so paralysis by analysis is something I can be guilty of. And I think, oh man, I gotta make sure I get this just right. I'm going to show you why that's just a totally, it's literally down the wrong vein when it comes to recruiting. Number 5 is I really don't know her very well. That's something that stops us. And here's another one. I risk ruining the relationship. Okay. Now, this is one of those homework items that we said, which things are stopping us? And I want you to answer. I want to talk about this for a minute and have you guys answer. Do any of these ones resonate with you? Are you telling yourselves any of these things? Which one is it, or is there more than one? And are these related? Are yours related to any of these? Are there any others that you guys think of, or that you're feeling that we haven't covered? And I'll remind you that this was the slide we did last time about why we don't take action. And I asked you, this is the list I asked you to kind of review and decide for yourself as a homework assignment if any of these are related to what's stopping you. So I'm going to leave it on the lies, but you have this slide from last time also. So let's share with each other. Is this all the rocks in the garden?
I could add one.
Okay.
I'm James. I'm new in the business, never been in realty before. And I've been in this business for about, almost a little under 3 years now, and still haven't done any real business. So the thing for me is just maybe lack of confidence to approach an established realtor and try to tell them how great this brokerage is, yet just not having the confidence and a deal behind me to where I could even speak to what I've done. So
yeah. Okay.
That's basically it.
Yeah, so I think that's related to some of the ones that I've listed here. Like, I'm not experienced enough. How could I add any value to this conversation with somebody else? Like, why would they ever think that they could respect me as a realtor enough to be interested to hear this, right?
Yeah, and then a lot of times the first thing you hear is, "Oh, the pyramid. It's a pyramid, right? The old pyramid scheme." So,
yeah. So my answer to that is, yeah, it absolutely is. Let me tell you why it's so sweet that it is.
but they all are. They just don't realize it. Basically, that's how I gather it.
Yeah. In the Power of Synergy presentation, sometimes I'll explain it like, in most brokerages, the pyramid is one broker and all the agents making that broker rich. And in this one, it goes like this so that more of us get rich in the process. And that's the difference between it. And they're all a pyramid. Okay, but we're not here to handle objections. We'll do that kind of stuff later. Was there anybody else who had any of these or any of these that resonated with you and said, man, that I didn't even realize that that was one I was kind of battling in my own mind?
Mine is risking the relationships. I kind of forgot about that. I knew way more realtors before I became a realtor. And so they all pitched me their brokerages when they found out I was getting my license. But I was with Steve, so I'm going where Steve goes. And they all of those friendships kind of just fizzled, like, oh, you trader, you didn't come with me to my team or my brokerage, so I'm not going to talk to you about your team or your brokerage.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes sense. All right. Let me share my screen again.
Here, if I can share.
Yeah, go ahead.
So similar to Kim, I'm a new, well, she's not new, but similar to Kim, being a new broker, when I talk to other broker agents, when I talk to other agents, first of all, they say, well, how would I know? Because I don't have the experience. I'm new at this. And similar to Kim, they would look at me and say that, and I know a lot of agents as well and brokers, they would say that if you're new in the business, why didn't you come to their brokerage? And now you're my competitor. So why would I want to come to your business? So there you go.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Hey, Cody, I'm going to add one more.
Yeah.
Thank you. So what stopped me is I looked at it, and this could be wrong, as, okay, now I'm responsible for them and their success, and I am busy kicking ass and taking names for my business. I don't want to be worried about having to help somebody else do that or have a part-time job raising an agent.
Okay. Thank you. We will be coming back to that one for sure.
Okay.
No question on that one. Okay. Let me share my screen again. You guys seeing that, right? All right. Okay. All of these things that we have identified over these last two sessions, to me, can be, almost all of them can be categorized as this. It comes back in some way to a fear of being rejected. Now, Joe D and I had a conversation today about this, that we talked about this at great length, and one of the things that he and I kind of vetted together was that we really need to reframe this idea in our mind. And this was the question that he said to me. He said, are we really being rejected? Now, I believe that the truth is that either they're going to say yes, or what they're really saying is now's not the right time. And that has to be an okay thing when you're recruiting, because if you're going to recruit with integrity and be genuine in what you're trying to help the other agent with, then if it's not the right time for them, then not only should you be okay with that, but you should be willing to offer that to them as the circumstances as you see it. And I have done this many times, and it has played well for me. So there's a kind of a continuum when it comes to what our mindset is with the fear of rejection. So on this end of the spectrum, it's I got rejected and it's painful. And then maybe graduating up from that a little bit is I got rejected, but it's okay. I'm strong enough to take it. Right? So like, it's okay that I got rejected, and it's okay that it would be painful because I'm strong enough that I can just deal with that. And then up the chart a little bit further would be, well, I just don't call it rejection. Right. This is kind of like the redefining what a recession is so that we're not in a recession. Right. So like, I'm just like, that's going to happen, but I'm just not going to call it rejection, which that's fine. But even a step up from that is, it's not really me being rejected. It's the model or the business that's being rejected. Right. That's kind of like a step up. But the top of that really is, it's not rejection. It's just not the right time, and he or she will probably be interested later. Now, if I ask everybody in EXP, how many people joined the first time you heard it? Most people didn't. Most people didn't join the first time they heard it. Now, here's another question I want us to consider going forward. Is it possible to recruit in a way that you cannot be rejected? Now, I don't mean that you're so freaking good at it that people are powerless to reject you. Like your pitch is so compelling that they're just like drawn. It's like the Jedi trick of, we're going to go this way. You should go this way, right? I don't mean that. I don't mean that. What I mean is that if you recruit in a way that rejection is possible, then I would submit that there's a better way of recruiting. And so we're going to talk about that today. The other concept is you got to choose your hard. And what I mean by that is talking with others and recruiting efforts might seem hard to some people. So you can decide not to do that, but probably the result of that is you won't be able to retire on your terms or as quick as you want to. And that to me sounds pretty hard. So I'd rather choose the hard of talking with others than the hard of I didn't get to retire when I wanted to. Okay, so last time I told you I wanted to convince you that this is something you needed to do. And now I know this is feeling like I've taken half of this class to convince you need to do this. But it's not actually that. It's that if you know how to recruit, but you're still stuck on all of these lies we tell ourselves or all of these fears that we have, it won't matter how good you think you can be at it. And in fact, if you really can get your mind right on all of those things, it's almost like we don't even need to have the rest of the discussion, because the rest of the discussion just starts to happen naturally when you approach it in the form of not trying to recruit somebody, not trying to convince somebody of something. It's that you do it in a way that literally they are attracted to you and what you are offering, because they will see that it is a benefit to you and it is a better way, and they could have a part of that too. If I think of recruiting as I got to convince somebody to change brokerages, that to me feels very hard. It feels scary. It even feels dangerous. I wouldn't want to do that. But if instead what I think is, well, what I really need to do is just share and create curiosity, that to me sounds much easier to do. And I don't feel any fear around that. Okay, so let's talk about the concept. So what I've done is I've broken this down into concepts and then 4 simple steps. And the 4 simple steps need to incorporate these concepts, because the concepts will make it so that the steps actually work the right way. They're done in the right spirit. So the first concept is you got to have the right feelings, like we were just talking about. You've got to feel the happy side of this, not the sad side of this. You can't have the puke emoji in your brain and be successful at recruiting agents. This one is very important. You got to think long term. You will almost never recruit somebody when you have done one attempt at telling them what this is all about, because that form of recruiting is trying to convince somebody of something. And that's not how we're going to do this, because we're not trying to convince anybody of anything. This is something we are inviting people to come take a look at. The third one is be prepared. When you go and see a concert, that concert represents probably less than 10% of the time of that person actually performing those songs. There's 90% of the time happens in rehearsal. And so being prepared takes away fear and helps you to be viewed as somebody who knows something. People pay attention to others that they perceive as knowing something that they don't know. And that doesn't mean knowing how to do more real estate deals. Okay, we'll talk about that more. This one to me is the number one key for my personal success, is that I don't try to sell people on EXP. I sell synergy. I talk about synergy. not EXP. Now, there's a few reasons for that for me. One of those reasons is that I don't think EXP is perfect. I know that's blasphemous. I know that no one ever wants to say that, but I think that there are some holes in the EXP model. There are some difficulties, some challenges that come up. And so Synergy was created with the intent of filling in those holes. And because it was, we know with perfect knowledge that it's a genuine response to filling those holes. And everybody who's ever heard about EXP before has not necessarily heard about it in the way we are experiencing it because of this concept of synergy. Number 5 is be honest. Do not use any tactic that is a bait and switch, like hey, come to this mastermind where we're just going to talk about these particular subjects, and then it really is just the power of synergy presentation where we're trying to convince them that synergy is everything, right? So be honest with that. Tamara tells a great story. Tamara made a video for me to share during this session, and I just couldn't figure out a way to fit it in as smoothly as I would like to. So I'm going to be sending you all a link to that video after this class, and I encourage you to watch it. But she talks a little bit about that in that video, about her story of that Tamara met me and Joe at a Power of Synergy presentation that somebody else tricked her into going to. Now, she ended up getting sponsored by Joe, not the person who pulled the trickery. So be honest about what you're doing there, because otherwise it just kind of blows up in your face. Now, number 6 is keep yourself warm. What I mean by this one is I like to be constantly reading a book or taking a course or something that just keeps my juices flowing. This is, I think, a really important concept, and I want to see if everybody else would be on board with us helping each other with this. So this is kind of what I envision. Somebody says, hey, has anybody ever read the book whatever, and puts that out on the Synergy WhatsApp thread. So maybe somebody could suggest this book and say, hey, I think this book is good, and then maybe 1 or 2 of us could choose to read that or consume whatever that is that the person suggested, and then come back and say, this one's worth it. So then we can all go and do that. I think if we're constantly sharing with each other the things that have been good for us, that have helped us, I think that would be really fun for us to help each other. There's a book called Building an Empire by Brian Carruthers, and it's all about network marketing. Now, we all know that EXP is not technically an MLM, but the concepts that Brian shares in that book apply to us. And I've only read parts of that book, so I don't want to like give it my full recommendation. But I intend to read that book, and I will report back to all of you on how that is. But I find it important for me to keep myself warm on these subjects. Number 7 is get your story straight. Practice it, rehearse it, and be willing to share your story. Stories will motivate people sometimes more than anything else. So you sometimes people will relate with your story, sometimes people will relate with other people's story, but you got to think through this and explain to people why it has been good for you. Number 8, don't try to explain it. This is one of the best ways to attract attention and curiosity. So this is what happens a lot. People will say, like I'll mention something about synergy that creates some curiosity, and they'll say, and I'll say, you know, sometime when I have your divided attention, I'd love to get you on one of our weekly calls where I kind of go through this and explain what synergy is. And they say, well, just tell me like the basics of, you know, just give me the quick version of it now. I absolutely refuse to do that. I just say, you know what, it's not fair to you or to me if I try to just quickly explain something to you. So I refuse to do that. And sometimes I don't want the person who I'm recruiting to hear the story from me. Sometimes I will have somebody else explain it. Like I'll ask Joe if he's willing to do a 3-way call with me or something. Number 9 is wear your synergy heart on your sleeve. So I'm going to, for the rest of class, I'm going to be kind of picking on Yvonne in a great way, because Yvonne does this very well. She is on social media constantly sharing events and trainings and parties and all these things that we do in Synergy. And I can tell you that I know with perfect certainty that other agents are watching that and they're interested and curious by that. And we're going to talk about a specific example of that later. And then the last concept is you got to remember this. There are agents freaking everywhere, right? Is it easier to find a listing or an agent? Is it easier to find a new client or an agent? It is so much easier to find an agent than it is to find a new transaction. It's unbelievable. So I encourage all of you to take a picture of this, or we'll send you this slide in the email that we send out following the class. Print this out and put this on your wall and remind yourself of these concepts constantly. These things will change that mindset for you, and all of the steps are based around these concepts. Okay, here are the steps. Step 1 is make a plan. We're going to go through these in a little more specificity here in a minute. Step 2 is establish a relationship. Step 3 is share without the intent to invite. And step 4 is invite. The best thing you can do for yourself when it comes to recruiting is to keep it as simple as you can. In the video I'll send you from Tamara, she uses the KISS acronym, KISS, and she doesn't like the word stupid, so she has named it Keep It Super Simple, which I love. I think that's great. We got to love Tamara's positivity. I like to use the word stupid a lot, so I will probably keep it simple stupid, but that's just me being less than I should be, right? But if you decide there's somebody you'd like to share Synergy with, you got to establish a plan. You got to then go and make sure that you have a relationship with that person. You then share things. I'm going to show you specific examples of this without any intent to invite. And then you've got to invite them to do something. These are the steps. It's this simple. So let's talk about number 1, make a plan. In that plan, you have to decide how you're going to keep yourself accountable. You're either going to buy yourself an ice cream cone if you do it, and not if you don't do it, or you're going to get somebody else that you can meet with on a weekly basis to whip you over the head and shoulders if you don't do it. I don't know what it is, but decide how you're going to make yourself accountable, or it won't be as likely to be successful. Now, this could include making a list of the people that you know, the agents you know. Like what I would do is start out just listing out every agent I know and then keeping an active list. So if I go to a CE class and meet a new agent, if I go to something at GLVAR and some event and I meet a new agent, I add that person to the list, just so I've constantly got everybody sort of in front of me that I can at least ask myself, who would this maybe benefit? And there's going to be some people on the list that you just say, I don't think so. Okay. Now, has anybody ever heard that if you want to make a change, take massive action? Who's ever heard that before? Okay. Where does that come from? There's a famous guy who coins that. Tony Robbins, right? Tony Robbins says, if you want to get something done, take massive action. Now, I'm not saying that that's wrong, but I want to challenge that a little bit and maybe do it with a different approach. So let me show you what works for me. For me, I pick short-term, easy, doable actions, and I have long-term expectations for what those actions will produce. Now, this sounds like a cop-out. On the surface, this sounds like you're basically saying, well, this is just me making an excuse to not have to take massive action. I have found for me personally that if I pick very achievable things that I believe will work, but I expect them to work over the course of a long period of time, I get way more accomplished than if I try to like revamp my whole life, because that's too hard for me to revamp my whole life. I'm already kind of stuck in my ways. But picking these things that I can do, like that are short term. So I'll give you an example. I am going to commit to all of you right now that I will spend 1 hour a week in recruiting efforts. Now, I don't think that 1 hour is going to produce 10 recruits in the first week. That's a long-term expectation, but that's how I'm going to approach it. Now, the other way of thinking about this is, how many interactions do you want it to be? Like, what do you want it to be for somebody to be interested in really, truly taking a look at Synergy and EXP? If your expectation is that that's 1 or 2 interactions, it might not be realistic, right? So for me, I have said, I don't want to put a certain number on this. I'm okay if it takes 100 interactions. If it takes 100 interactions with somebody before they're interested in what I have to say about it, then that's fine. That's how long it will be. Now, Katie, you and I first met in my neighborhood in Las Vegas because you were listing a house in my neighborhood, right? And I contacted you to talk with you about that, and was asking you some questions because I was trying to get intel about what's happening with real estate in my neighborhood. And Katie, in that conversation, shared with me, I don't know why it's not selling, Cody. Now, she's with a different brokerage. She's not part of our group at all, right? But I did not, in that conversation, tell her about Synergy or EXP. That led us to, I offered to meet her at the house, and I said, look, I don't know if I'll be able to figure it out either, but I wouldn't mind going there and seeing the house and giving you my thoughts on it. And that wasn't a selfless thing. That was somewhat selfish because, again, I wanted to know what was going on in my neighborhood. Like, I want to know the value of my own home, and I want to be an expert in my own neighborhood. And so I went and met with her there. And I don't think it was even there that I first made any mention about anything related to Synergy. It wasn't until later that I did that. So I'm okay with it being a lot of interactions. And some people, I don't personally do this, but some people think about, like, okay, let's say that if I invite 10 people, I'm going to get 1 person to actually take action. So let's see how fast I can get to 9 no's. Like, how fast can I get there? Make it a game of let's see if I can get rejected and get all the rejections out of the way. Now, the reality of this is that the reason I brought this one up, even though this isn't something that I personally employ, is because you cannot be afraid of somebody turning you down. Again, you got to reframe it in your mind that if somebody turns you down, it's not a no, it is a not right now. It really is that for people, because I'm telling you, we have people in Synergy who had one of the most abrupt, harsh no's that you could ever get with respect to EXP, who, you know, now are on the board of directors. So that's a little bit of a turnaround, right? Okay, number 2, establish a relationship. Learn how to say these words. Tell me about yourself. Now, some people are kind of onto you and think that this is a way you can manipulate them. So you got to maybe sometimes rephrase this. This is one I have personally said recently to somebody. She just seemed like a very interesting person. And I said, you know, there's just something about you that is so interesting to me. Tell me your story. I got to know what your background is. That's the same as saying, tell me about yourself. I got to know more about you. That's another way of saying it. So figure out ways that you can ask this question, because really you can't establish a relationship if you know nothing about the person. Now, I also, before I bring up anything about Synergy or EXP, normally I like to know how long they've been in the business. How has that been for them? Like, they're going to share with me, they're going to tell me so much about their current circumstances. I don't want it to sound like the only reason I'm asking them is because I want to know what brokerage they're with and what things they hate about their broker, so that I can exploit those in their mind to convince them that they're in the wrong place, and then they're going to come over and join us, right? Like that is the way a lot of people recruit. There are a lot of recruiting classes out there that tell you to do exactly that. But I don't believe that's how we should be doing it. I want to know how it's been for them. What has been your experience as a realtor? What things have been difficult? So what things have worked? What things have not worked? In the course of that conversation, all those pieces of information you need about what is challenging for them will come out. People will tell you forever about their kids. Be careful about asking about this, because you're really going to get to know them. Hobbies, if you don't know what they like to do, I think that's part of a relationship. And then what makes them tick. So if you've ever been in any of my other classes, you'll know that the way I define a client, one of the ways I define a client is that I know what makes them tick. So this is basically building a relationship. Hey, I'm in a presentation. Can you take him out?
Oh, Gus, where?
Go on. Sorry.
Gus.
Thanks. That's the beauty of doing a live recording, right? All right, so you got to understand what makes them tick, because this is how you're going to be able to determine if what you have is actually interesting and beneficial to them, because if not, then you don't want to present it. Number 3 is share without inviting. If you have no intent to invite them to anything, then there's no pressure involved. And that to me is a huge relief. Like if I feel like, oh, I'm doing this because I have to do the next step to invite them, then it's not as natural for me and it doesn't feel genuine. If you are talking with them and sharing with them with no intent to invite, then you can't get rejected. If you don't put yourself out there to get rejected, you can't get rejected. Sharing attracts curiosity and questions. So here's one that I heard once. Somebody said to another agent, I just had the toughest situation on a recent transaction. I'm part of this realtor group. We call ourselves the Synergy Community. And one of the people on the board of directors jumped in and helped me out so much. And I'm really not sure what I would have done without her. Now, what questions is somebody going to have in their mind if you say that to them? What questions?
What happened?
Okay, what was the situation that was really tough on your recent transaction? What's the other question?
How did they help?
Yeah, so, okay, how did they help you solve it? What's another question?
Tell me somebody on the board helped you?
Yeah, so this is what happened.
What
The agent went, okay, wait, I got to know what you're talking about. I don't know the situation, but did you say Synergy Community? What is that? And wait, it has a board of directors? So that person just shared with no intent to invite, like this was not shared with the purpose of saying, now that I've hooked you, why don't you come to this special thing on Tuesday at noon, right? There was no intent to invite, but look at the curiosity that gets created from sharing that. There are so many things like that that you can say and do. All right, number 4 is invite. Now this is if I would you. And I'm not going to actually dig too deep into this today, because we are going to use our scripts practice for practicing this. But I will tell you guys that this was not natural to me. I have practiced it and practiced it and practiced it, and it has become so natural now to me that it is extremely powerful and extremely effective. And I use this in everything in my life, not just real estate. This if I would you is the best way to invite somebody to do something, because built into the equation is, I'm doing something for you. Will you please reciprocate and do something for me? And somebody is 90% more likely to do something for you if you have done something for them. Remember the people that used to hand out the roses in the airport before asking for a donation? By handing the person a rose first, they were 90% more effective in getting the donations. This has to be combined with a triple commitment. If you commit somebody to something one time, the chances of them doing it are a little less than 50%. Like you invite them to a meeting and they say, yes, I'll come. That's 50%, a little less than 50%. It's in the 40s. If you commit them 2 times to the same thing, then it goes up to like 60, 70, somewhere in the high 60s%. If you invite them 3 times, if you triple commit them on the same thing, the success rate goes into the 90s. So it's way, way more effective. Now, here is just one example of how you can do this. A friend of mine does a really good job of explaining what it's all about. Let's say that you've built curiosity in this concept of synergy. He does a Zoom call Tuesdays at noon. If I send you the registration link, would you register? Did anybody feel like that was like a super aggressive, in your face, closer kind of a statement? No. If I send you the registration link, would you register? If I call you a day or 2 after I send that to make sure you had no problems, would you let me know if it was easy and straightforward to register? I've been sort of curious what it's like for someone on your end. If I follow up with you, would you let me know if that was easy for you? You see how I just committed them to the same action without saying a second time, will you register? Will you register? Will you register? Right? I don't mean to say it the same way. If I send you a reminder, maybe by text or something on Tuesday morning before that call, would you please just give me the thumbs up that you're still going to be able to attend so that I know? See how that, if I would you? Okay, here's another scenario. I'm just going to give you another example of this. I'm close with a guy named Joe DeRaffaelli. He's been a top producer in the business for decades now. He's a super smart guy. I just respect him so much. And he's also just a really good person. But what I respect about him the most is his insight, like as a business person, in our business as realtors. It personally has helped me quite a bit. Man, I would sure love for you to meet him sometime. Have I done any invite there? None. I've done no invite there. Now, I can read the person. If the person looks totally disinterested, then I know that they're not interested in meeting this, this guy who's close to Jesus, right? I don't know how they could not be with that setup, but if they don't seem intrigued at all, then you're gonna have to try something else later. But usually people are feeling inside of them, I would like to meet him too. Well, what if that led to, in fact, in thinking about this, he's really quite busy. So I don't think it's going to be like tomorrow. But if I could get him to give us some of his time for a call sometime, would you be sure to keep that appointment? So there's an if I would you. So then get 3 times from them that might work, and then say, okay, if I get one of these times confirmed, would you guard that time on your calendar? Okay, those are much stronger, but I'm just giving you a feel for different ways you can use the if I would you. Did you even really, it didn't like stick out to you, this if I would you, it becomes very natural. Now, this is my favorite. This is where you're not actually committing them to that specific thing, but they know how important this is to you. If I don't get back to you on this by Friday, could you please remind me that I committed to get that done for you? Now this goes entirely away from they're doing me a favor to I'm doing you a favor, and I need you to remind me that I promised to do that for you. So all of this creates the perception that there's something interesting that you know that they don't know. Not in a malicious way, just in a very genuine way. Okay, now this is going to be really interesting because I did not know this until just before this presentation, but the person who I'm going to share this story about is actually on this call with us. So this is Elsa, who was on the call with us yesterday in the Power of Synergy presentation. And the reason I wanted to bring this one up is because I was so impressed with Elsa. Like, I was just like, whoa, she is going to kill it in this business. And so I called Yvonne after the Power of Synergy presentation and I said, tell me about Elsa. I got to know everything I can know about her. And so Yvonne told me a little bit about the process for having Elsa become interested in being in the call. Now, Elsa, if I say anything that's wrong, you can speak up and correct me, okay? But huh?
I said, will do.
Okay. So what was so intriguing to me about this is that this was the text message. I had Yvonne send me the screenshot. This was the text message that Elsa sent to her after the Power of Synergy call. I learned so much, and heck yeah, who doesn't want to retire with added perks? Thank you for bringing me on board. Does this sound like somebody who is kicking and screaming that you tricked them or forced them into hearing some presentation from somebody? Does this sound like somebody who feels like they got sold on a bill of goods? Does this sound like somebody who got recruited? I can tell you that Elsa, it is not in the process of being recruited. What Yvonne did was she shared with her the things she loves about Synergy Community. And Elsa saw Yvonne's reel. Is a reel on YouTube or Facebook, or where is that? Is it on YouTube?
I follow her on Instagram.
Yep, Instagram.
Okay, see, this shows you how bad I am at this. So Yvonne did an Instagram reel and Elsa saw it and was interested in that. Now, here's the thing that's super interesting to me. How did Yvonne meet Elsa? Yvonne was helping another agent with his listing. Elsa was a buyer's agent. Now, wouldn't the agent whose listing it was have the biggest opportunity to interact with Elsa and make her interested in Synergy? But he didn't. Yvonne did. And Yvonne did that with all of the things we've been talking about now. She did not say to Elsa, at least that I'm aware of, hey, I want to recruit you into this group, or hey, you should be a part of our group. She just shared what she loves about Synergy, wore it on her sleeve in the form of an Instagram reel. And even if Elsa had never reached out, Yvonne would have eventually been able to say to her some of those if I would you invites to come and participate in Synergy. Okay, we're out of time, so I'm going to go through these really quickly. I'm going to be sending you some links to some of these things. All of these are different resources that you can use for attracting agents. The Synergy events that are non-training, that are just fun, are some of the best ways of doing that. Next week, we are going to finally actually unveil the T card. So this has been teased on you as much as we can tease it on you. The next session, you are going to actually get to see it. I'm going to show you what it is. I'm going to orient you to it. I'm going to tell you exactly how I think you should use it. But one of those things is going to be to show people that that's a resource that they get when they're part of our group. And it is an amazing resource. We're going to be doing in our scripts practice, we're going to practice some of this if I would you stuff. There are tons of CE classes taught by Synergy people. There's the Brent Gove video called The Model Explained. There's my Power of Synergy presentation that I do every week by Zoom. There's a presentation by a woman named Casey that she did at one of Brent Gove's masterminds that's very good. It's about an hour long. I'll send you that video. So one of the ways you can keep yourself warm. And then there's a video by a guy named Jay Kinder, one of the most highest revenue share earners in EXP. He did a training at a 2019 mastermind in Las Vegas that I was at. And it's also a very good presentation. You can give people a guest pass to the EXP world. So there are all these resources. This is just a small list of many, many things. Okay, next session will be session number 3. But before we talk about when that is, next week is our NFL party. Okay, everybody needs to come to the NFL party. It's super fun. We basically don't talk about work. We just get to know each other. Invite people to come to it. It's fun. It's a super easy invitation for you. Session number 3 is going to be, I believe this is 2 weeks from today. I will be coming off of the board of directors retreat. So somebody's going to need to resuscitate me at about 3 p.m. just before this session, but I promise I'll bring it. And I am so excited to give you guys the T card because I think you're going to absolutely love what you see there. All right. Let me stop sharing here. Okay, we are out of time. I don't want to take anybody's time that, you know, I promised you we'd keep this to 1 hour, and we are right at that hour mark. If anybody has any questions and wants to stick around after, I'm happy to do that. But thank you very much for attending and giving me your attention. And I hope that this has been valuable and has challenged your thinking a little bit on how to do this. Now, I am not naive enough to think that we can talk about this for 1 hour and everybody's going to naturally know how to recruit. Okay. I have given you all the concepts that take a long time to percolate, and we are going to dig into each one of those in future sessions. We're going to practice those things together, and we're going to over time become better at it together, at helping other people really know what we are all about and what we offer. So thank you for attending today. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you on the next session.